I should leave
I
after
feel
that
like you
clap.
should also high five people more often because I feel like you're very strong on high fiving.
I've done a good high five or two in my
High five.
time.
I've been commented that like I've given the best high fives people have ever gotten. Just putting that out there.
Edit that out. That's not appropriate. This is already getting out of control. Welcome to the Bank Tellers, where the bankers be telling, and it's been already a long enough day that that's the best tagline I've got. Erica,
I'm here for it. Zach,
welcome
I'm
to the
here
show.
for it. Thank you so much for having me.
So, tell us first off who you are and your journey into this role at the bank.
Yeah, so I'm Erica Khalili. I'm the Chief Legal and Risk Officer at Lead Bank, which is a bank based out of Kansas City, Missouri,
Whoop, whoop.
which I've learned to love over the past 3 years. So prior to my role at Lead, I spent about 7.5 years at Block as Deputy General Counsel and led their project to get their ILC charter approved, which you can't tell because they're well covered, but had a few less gray hairs before I started on that journey. And so Lead has been very much a labor of love. So myself and my three co-founders, we acquired Lead in August of 2022, and the entire sort of background and thesis on how we got there was we'd been on the operator side for a long time, and we always wanted to build the bank that we wanted to see, which meant being amazing around technical capabilities, really thoughtful around risk and compliance, and having just a really deep financial acumen, and making sure that we were all over all of that. So that's what led us to Lead Bank in Kansas City, Missouri.
I love it.
Yeah.
A question I've always wanted to ask, and it's not on this sheet, how did you land on Lead? Like, I'm sure there was a long list of banks you were considering, especially during that time. How did you land on Lead of all?
So I think that that was probably the longest pull that we had from starting the company. And Jackie and I, and to those who don't know her, my co-founder Jackie Reeses.
If you don't know her, what are
If
you
you
doing?
don't know her,
I mean,
she's,
come
yeah,
on,
fintech
come on.
We looked at a lot of banks and we had to spend a lot of time figuring out what the right target looked like for us because there were very small banks, much larger. And so figuring out the demographics sort of in terms of who our regulator was going to be,
Yep.
the asset size that made sense.
Yep.
And also, I will say, just finding a bank like Lead that had such a cultural DNA of being innovation minded and sort of forward looking, that was just really unexpected. So we toured a lot of banks, and if you're lucky after this, I'll pull out some of the photos of Jackie and I in the Dakotas in a pickup truck rental as we were
Oh.
touring financial institutions. But we had a short list, of course. And then, a lot of it came from spending time with the folks at Lead and getting to know them and sharing our vision for them as well. And also talking to the regulators in Kansas City. Like, for a regulated financial institution, making sure that you have those deep and meaningful relationships and that transparency with your regulators is so important. And so we, had a long experience of working with regulators, and we've been really excited and impressed with the folks that we've gotten to deal with in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's been, I will say, from a Kansas Citian's perspective, as someone that's studied entrepreneurship in the city, whatever studying entrepreneurship means, and like being a fan of Lead, like they ran all of the innovation stuff, like they were doing so much for the community. And then here comes Jackie, here comes Erica, Vinod Khosla, who are all these people? And it's just like had this injection of energy into Kansas City that is really cool. So I just want to say, welcome to Kansas City, even though we're sitting in Vegas. It's really cool what you guys are doing.
So can I ask you one?
Sure.
Best barbecue?
Oh, Joe's.
Really? I like Jack Stack.
Well, this is going to be the first thing you fight about.
Cheese, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Gives
that's
me life.
Joe's all day. Actually, this is probably a lot more approachable in terms of content than we realize. This is a very serious conversation that is had in Kansas City and had throughout the entire United States.
I will be back in a week because I'm going to the Chiefs Broncos game. So I will
is
be
a place
doing
to put some meat down.
a little barbecue, little barbecue tour. So maybe I'll give Joe's another shot.
Okay, yeah. Well, give me a shout and
Okay.
I'll just make sure that you agree with me by the end of it. This is an interesting one because of what you just explained. What was the bank's banks? I don't know what just happened to me there. What was the bank's biggest business line before you all acquired it, and what is it now?
So it was interesting because Lead did have a very diversified program when we acquired it. So obviously we have what we call our traditional community bank, which is where we serve the local Kansas City metro area, real estate-based lending, deposits. We have 2 branches, both in downtown KC as well as in Lee's Summit. there's a great lake out there. See, I feel like I'm showing you my Kansas City cred here.
You're doing better than me. I actually left my Chiefs Super Bowl hat over there, but I was thinking about putting it on about halfway through. But I think we're doing enough KC that I don't need to.
So they did have a small banking as a service portfolio. And the most notable of that is the partnership with Self Financial that we maintain today. So I think the bank was already dipping their toe into the water, but what we really brought, I think, to the table was obviously an infusion of capital, as well as a shift in mindset to be more technologically focused. You know, the first people we hired at Luna before Lead were our product and engineering team, because building a banking.
Wait, do I know what Luna is? Is that what was that?
Luna is the bank holding company that owns Lead Bank, and that was our company before the acquisition.
Okay.
So before the acquisition, we were still building the tech platform and building sort of the rails that we knew we would need. And it's really interesting to me because I think Lead, like so many, as a smaller community bank without sort of access to all of these various domain expertise, was kind of just weaving together a tapestry of vendors versus being able to launch our own platform that's really developer based and focused on, you know, engineers from a lot of fintech background, a lot of traditional banking background, putting things together and building something that is really innovative, but also adds value to our fintech partners.
Sometimes you think you know a story, and then you hear the story from the person that actually lived the story, and you're like, oh, wait, no, I didn't know the story at all. So I thought I knew the story of Lead.
Yeah.
I did not understand the idea or the fact that you just shared that the technology of Luna was being developed before you actually acquired any bank or went down that road.
Yeah.
Like you were a technology company before you were the chartered financial institution. Do you feel like the industry knows that? I don't know if they need to know.
I hope they do, because I think that, you know, Lead is really interesting in the fact that I think, of course, we're a regulated bank, and one of our sort of core competencies is around risk and compliance, but it's also around technology.
See, neither of us can talk.
Technology and how technology can advance even risk and compliance functions.
100%.
I think a big thing that I've found, especially in this regulatory climate, because I am going to make that my own personal drinking game during this conference, and I'm only on day one. But I think in this regulatory climate, having technology opens sort of the way that you can monitor your programs and have that oversight in a really unique and a creative manner. It's changed from risk and compliance, you know, they're a bug you have to deal with, to really being a feature that we can offer as a financial institution, where, for example, if we get a data file on a lending partner that doesn't have an OFAC checked at timestamp in it, we're rejecting the file and money's not moving. So having those controls that also are embedded that we've built right within the tech, within the money movement stack, gives so much protection. And it's, you know, I wouldn't say I sleep well at night because I'm me, but
you sleep better than you would.
Better than I would have. So I think that that's been really interesting. So yeah, we started with the tech before we had the charter and while we were going through the entire change of control process.
It makes complete sense. I mean, for the record, and like to add, I guess, a little bit of a layer to the question I asked, I do, and I think the industry does, absolutely think of Lead as like a tech-led and like high-quality technology-oriented bank. I just didn't realize that the technology was being built as you were like that. That's a fascinating story, and I wish you had like cameras following you this whole time, because that's like a nerd's dream to be able to understand all this. Erica, you're the worst, because honestly, we've covered all of the questions, and I just want to ask you about all the other things that have nothing to do with the questions I'm supposed to ask you.
Well, let's do it.
Let's just do that for a minute. Yeah. Catherine's over there. She's hating this.
Or loving it in a different way.
She's loving and hating all of the above.
What are you most excited about us to talk about at Money 2020 this year?
I think so I want to know more about your relationship with Jackie.
Okay.
Tell me how you two met. Tell me how this like work relationship has built, and because it seems unique, but also like something that you do see here and there throughout the industry in its own way.
So Jackie recruited me to swear in an interview that I don't know if anyone else has ever been interviewed for a job by Jackie Reeses.
I've had enough conversations with Jackie about hypothetically working with her that I could imagine being scared shitless.
So I had come from a very sort of Wall Street background.
Yeah.
I had a career before I went into tech in structured products, bank regulatory, and fintech work. And I came to San Francisco to meet the leadership team from Block, Square at the time.
Sure.
And Jackie came in and asked me how I was going to help her change the world.
That's the most Jackie Reese's question I've ever heard.
And it's the same thing she asked when we were talking about doing this, except she's like, how are we going to change banking? And I love that about the relationship and what we've brought from the DNA of Block and being on the operator side into being the bank. And so Jackie and I worked very, very closely together for 7.5 years at Block, building Square Capital from an idea, a Hack Week project, in fact.
Oh, really?
So Square Capital began as a Hack Week project. It then
wild.
evolved into an incredibly successful lending business. And we took the journey of getting an ILC charter together, which shows that we both have a bit of stubbornness and dogmatic, because when people tell us that things can't be done, and I said this earlier, like it's a bit how I've tried to drive my career, and I'm going to steal this one from my old boss, Savan. I see a pile of shit and I want to run towards it and I want to fix things. And so if the question was, could we build the bank we always wanted on the operator side? Heck yeah, was sort of the response. So after Square's charter was well on its way and the bank was open, we'd been talking about this for a while. And then there was a global pandemic.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that thing.
And we were seeing, A, probably not a great time to quit your job, but also B, more importantly, we were seeing stimulus and what wasn't working. And so I think we both felt a huge imperative to stay and work on PPP and be directly engaging with the government on that, using our distribution channel as well as using Cash App for unemployment. And so as that wound down and the world reopened, it started to look like a good time where we thought for a long time, would every fintech become a bank? And I spoke on this a bit this morning.
Yep.
And I think having gone through the chartering process, I don't know that that's the best path for a lot of fintechs for a multitude of reasons that if anybody wants to learn more about, I was on the stage at 9:45. But I think, now we see that being exceptional as a bank partner and sort of supporting our fintechs as a partner, not really just as a client or a customer, but like there's such a fundamental alignment of incentives, which I think is coming to fruition and being seen in the space where you see fintechs that we both want it to be a safe and sound program. We both want it to scale and be successful. We want the bank to remain in high regulatory and financial esteem. So like, why is there a friction? Why is there a tension? And how do we unblock that with, of course, staffing, but also with technology? Because like we're seeing things in anomaly detection where, and I love to tell this story because it's awesome. I was having drinks with one of our clients and I got paged with an anomalous wire that had come in. And I sit there and I pulled up my Slack and I was like, were you expecting this? And he's like, what? And I was like, oh, I just got paged on this. So did you expect this? And he goes, I'll check with my treasury team. And it's just, you're not used to your bank being the one like, are you sure this is happening? We're seeing this in your data, things like that.
Proactivity is not something you're used to as a fintech, yes.
So that was when Jackie and I went on this journey with our co-founders, Hamam and Ronak, to acquire Lead and really change the face of banking.
First off, I love it. Second, knowing you and Jackie and having worked, so I worked at MBKC before. I don't know how much of my background you know, but like I worked in that exact space. And in my experience, there's a direct correlation between the success of a program and the number of hard conversations had between the bank and the fintech, especially at an early stage. You're nodding your head, so I take it you agree. What's your perspective? Like, it seems, knowing Jackie, I feel like y'all ask the real questions up front. You get through that very fast. There is not a ton of mincing of words, and it's like we're in or we're out, I imagine.
I think it's a lot of that. It's also a lot of transparency from us.
Yeah.
Like we were a newer player in the space, and I will tell you that you can call some of our first clients who said, we know what you're building, we know the vision, we're going to take that mutual risk, as you bought a bank like 3 months ago. Yeah. And we said, we may be not good at things for 6 months, but then we'll be your best partner for the first 6 years. And like, there's not a lot of like that level of like, we know what we're good at and we know what we're not good at, and we're going to tell you, and then we're going to have an open and honest dialogue about it.
Yeah.
But I think, and everyone thinks this is cute or quaint or something. Our other co-founder, Hamam, is a very mild-mannered, tends to be a quiet person. Hamam and I are the head of sales. We have no sales or BD team. It's the two co-founders. one of us is a lawyer and one is a data scientist. So like Jackie loves to tell people that we're probably the worst sales team she's ever seen in her life, because we will tell you everything we think is wrong, everything you need to improve in your program, and what we need to do better, and a realistic timeline for it. And
But that's what you need. Like that's like why that is what the market has been missing for so long. And for the record, I do think that's what MBKC did, but it's so hard to scale the entire ecosystem of fintech on one community bank or this community bank. And it seems like what you all are doing is, not going to scale the entire world, but you're getting the balance, not this week. You're getting the balance sheet space. You're doing the things necessary to be able to really turn this into what the industry's kind of needed.
But we're doing it in a really crawl, walk, run manner, because I think that that's really important here, because the last thing that we need to do is get over our skis. And I talk about this a lot with people. Like, I have the lovely title of Chief Risk Officer, which I'm not a titles person. So this is, it's like, well, I guess I'll take my regulatory title now.
You are risky. I mean,
I am risky, you never know. But I think what's interesting is everyone asks, like, well, how do you limit risk? And I was like, I don't look to limit risk. I look to identify risk, mitigate risk, and manage risk. That's what I view my job as. But if we're not taking any risk, like, we shouldn't be doing anything. Like, you know what I'm like, it's too conservative. And so finding that appropriate balance, I think, is really, really important. But similarly to how we've approached any vertical that we think is high risk, like, we bank digital assets. We talk about it openly. We talk about it with our regulators. But we did it in a very thoughtful manner, such that we're like, we don't touch cryptocurrency.
Right.
It's all fiat. We've walked our regulators through our EDD and everything that we're doing, which is enhanced due diligence. I love to use an acronym, by the way.
We love acronyms. We also love defining the acronym. So thank you.
You're welcome. And so I think that that's been a big part of our success. And listen, I think that there can't be one.
Yeah.
There has to be, like, we shouldn't have a moat.
I mean, inherently, that's economics, right?
Yeah.
Like, we develop a little bit of an issue at the point of oligopoly or monopoly or any of it. So, yeah.
But I think, I like the trajectory we're on. I do think we have a lot more to build. But I think we're really doing things in a way that people are respecting and really, doing a good thing, and loving being in KC.
I love it. It. Okay, let's do a little bit of like a rapid fire quasi thing, because we've done nothing I was supposed to do here.
Is this the first time you've been distracted and thrown off?
No, it's just like, the past interviews that we've done, I've literally stuck to this, and I actually just really like talking to you, so it's fucking pointless. What's the best advice you've ever gotten in your career?
Champion change. And what I say by that is, I see a lot of people that take a really, really strong point of view on things, and then, yes, they sit there, but they don't listen. And so for me, I think Jack gave this to me. I would burn it all down to do something more amazing, and I would never be afraid of that. And that's where I think we are, where it's like, if we're doing it today and there's a better way, let's talk about it. And I tell that to my team all the time. Like, I'm like, I disagree with me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why we should throw away this whole thing we've built and do a completely different thing. And I think that's actually one of the things that excites me the most about fintech and about crypto. Like, to be told, or I don't know, is it digital assets now?
I mean, call it digital assets. There you go. Yeah.
It's what excites me is how that can be such a disruptor. Like, I love talking to people about the actual use cases. Yes, there's the investment thesis and all of that, but like, tell me about the woman who makes rugs in Saudi Arabia and can't actually access the banking system, and therefore can't have any autonomy over, her decisioning or anything like that. Tell me about how a stablecoin or a Bitcoin rail actually helps people, and that's what I get excited about. And like, everyone's nervous now. What will stablecoins do? What will be the next payment rail out there? I can't wait to see it.
That is the perfect spot to end. Thank you so much, Erica. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.